Hello, welcome to our webinar introducing my trauma healing method called Neuro Bi-lateral Processing. Thank you for taking the time out from your busy schedule to participate in this webinar. Time is a most valuable resource, and I appreciate your willingness to join me today. While you are participating, focusing is important. So please turn off your phone, social media programs, or any other distractions to get the best out of this webinar. First, I would like to introduce myself. I'm Michiyo Ambrosius. I've been a psychotherapist for more than 20 years, and I have been helping people overcome the difficulties in their lives. It's been very, very rewarding and enjoyable for me to work with people and witness tremendous change and transformation in them. But I was not always this confident and focused. I wasted many years of my younger life not being able to engage in a purposeful and meaningful profession because I believed that I was not good enough, or that I don't speak English fluently, or I'm not worthy, and on about how I could not do this and that. This was because I was holding on to what I call limiting beliefs. Yes. Okay. I wonder if you may also be carrying limiting beliefs, such as I'm not a good enough public speaker. I'm not ready to go big to the world, or I'm not good with sales. These beliefs may be the result of the trauma you have experienced in your earlier life. You might be sabotaging yourself without even realizing it. These beliefs have limited your progress and success in life. In other words, you've been stuck somehow. Does this sound like you? I have been stuck too. I would like to share my story and tell you how I got out of my own stuck situations. I was originally born and raised in Japan, where we, particularly women, were controlled by parents, devalued by men, and restricted by society. Besides the general cultural restrictions, I had a mother who was verbally and emotionally abusive. It got to be so bad that I became anorexic in my teens, and later on in my 20s, I was bulimic, and I wished I could disappear into thin air. I had to separate from her or kill myself. After a long time of preparation, I left Japan on a cargo ship all by myself with only $200 in my pocket. My language difficulties and the limiting beliefs that I held because of my childhood trauma kept me in low-paying jobs for many years. To start with, I worked in a factory by day and restaurant by night in order to earn my college tuition. After graduating from the University of Illinois, I moved to New York and worked as an office worker. Fast forward for a few years, I went back to Japan and got married to my sweetheart I met in the college gym, and we got married in a traditional wedding in Japan. Japanese culture was still restrictive in this picture. You see a decorative dagger that I'm wearing at the chest with the red tassels. This is symbolically telling me it is better to kill myself rather than getting a divorce and going back home in disgrace. Back in the United States, I worked as an assistant and even served tea to guests at the Japanese company I worked for. I did not believe I could obtain a higher paying job. One day while I was driving, I found my feet were numb with no sensation. Crawling into the house, I screamed and screamed my head off. Then the sensation came back into my feet. From these experiences, I realized how unexpressed anger and hurt can damage us physically, mentally, and spiritually, and limit our life in so many ways. Accumulated feelings can literally block the success that we rightly deserve. Currently, scientists are discovering that many illnesses like depression, anxiety, and even cancer or dementia are related to unhealed trauma experiences. Here's the slide. That's because traumatic memories are stored in our inner brain, where the emotion controlling parts of the brain, such as the amygdala and hippocampus, are located. These are in the inner brain or limbic system, also called old mammalian or animal brain, and close to the brain stem or reptilian brain, which controls our vital functioning, such as heartbeat, blood circulation, body temperature regulation, and digestion. They are automatic survival functions. We don't consciously think about our heart beating or about digesting food. It just happens. This is why our responses to trauma are also automatic. We are subconsciously responding as a survival instinct. You can see here that emotions like happiness and sadness have a big impact on our body temperature. Can you imagine what else is being affected by unhealed trauma? During my midlife crisis, I realized how much anger and rage I was carrying toward my mother. And I started to have psychotherapy work. It took over 10 years to work through with very little to show for my efforts. During that time, I instinctively invented my own anger management method to externalize and release my strong emotions. With this, I was able to achieve huge breakthroughs. By the way, the word emotions has meaning. The E represents the basis of motion, that is action and movement. When we hold on to strong emotions, we cannot go forward and get stuck. When I did this self-exorcism-like process to release my anger, I was able to regain my own strength and decided to pursue a doctorate in clinical psychology. I shared my personal experience because I want to let you know how common trauma experiences are. Many of us are affected by our past trauma, and so much of our true capacity and potential can lay dormant when we are carrying unhealed trauma experiences. In my opinion, everybody has experienced trauma at least once or multiple times in their life. And without healing our trauma at a cellular level, it is impossible to move forward with a happy, fulfilling life. So what are trauma experiences? Let's look at this slide. They are emotionally charged incidents that can include automobile and other accidents, bullying or abuse of any kind, loss of something or someone important, such as a loved one, your health, money, a job, or home, miscarriage, relationship breakups, or even the loss of a pet. Think about how many times you have personally experienced something painful or scary. This is trauma. With my training, we are creating a new professional designation of a healer called wholeness coaches. A wholeness coach is a trauma healer who applies certain techniques to heal the mind, body, and especially the spirit or emotions. A wholeness coach uses the term trauma in reference to their client's condition. Wholeness coaches do not treat people who are experiencing heavy-duty, incapacitating conditions that should be handled by clinical professionals. Here's another slide. When you experience painful, emotional, or traumatic incidents, the memories of your emotional and sensory responses get stuck in either your middle brain or brain stem. This is where our instinctive nature and vital processes are managed. Emotions are not a conscious choice, but are under control of the amygdala, which is located in the inner part of the brain called limbic system or animal brain. If the memories are not registered in the cognitive part of your brain, the part of your brain that is responsible for thinking and verbalizing, they can be forgotten and not treated by regular psychotherapies, which mainly involve talking and the cognitive part of your brain. This is because the cognitive brain is associated with speech, so it can be difficult for traumatized person to translate the experience into descriptive language. Here's another slide called, painful emotional experiences or trauma can show up in the form of physical and mental difficulties, such as limiting beliefs, guilt or shame, chronic pain, and headaches, including migraine headaches. They can decrease energy, motivation, self-esteem, ambition, or drive, and cause sleep disturbances, weight loss or gain, etc. Many people tend to live with these difficulties by suppressing, ignoring, or medicating. Often people will turn to drugs, alcohol, and other forms of substance abuse as a way to cope. In many cases, living with difficulties become a normal state of being, or we simply do not know these difficulties can be resolved. A lot of us are living our lives with less than our full potential, less vitality, less enjoyment, and less happiness. However, I can share some examples of people who have lived unsatisfying lives for a long time until they received my trauma healing technique and were finally able to recover and live with purpose and success. In Danielle's case, one day she witnessed a gun shooting at a subway station. After that, she was extremely nervous about taking the train to work and back. She felt afraid and out of control, like she couldn't protect herself. And she was angry about having to be on the train at all. After the first application of NBP, she had a breakthrough when she realized she hasn't thinking about being in danger and was actually enjoying her time on the train. She thought, wow, this is a huge difference. Next one is Adam. Adam was a fireman and had a horrible experience while fighting a house fire. Suddenly, he and his fellow firefighters started to hear children screaming from inside the burning house. But it was too late for the firemen to go into the house to rescue these children. The firefighters had to stand around, not being able to do anything, and kept on hearing children screaming until they stopped, ending in silence. After that, Adam could not function as a fireman. His muscles were tight, his back was hurt, and he could not move under perceived danger. After 2 applications of NBP, his muscle tension began to release. His back didn't hurt, and he was able to sleep. However, he never returned to his profession as a firefighter. It was too shocking. Trauma healing techniques must be applied in cases like Adam and Daniel's. Here's another slide. Remember, traumatic memories get stuck in the middle brain and the brain stem and are stored in the right side of the brain, which creates an automatic survival response. These stuck memories have to be moved from the right side of the brain to the left side of the brain in order to get the benefits of rational, logical, and analytical thinking, problem solving, and coping ability. Unless both sides of the brain are engaged to process the memory, it can get stuck there forever and cannot get resolved. That's why you encounter some people who are angry all the time, or people who cannot forgive the person who inflicted physical or emotional pain on them, no matter how long ago the incident happened. Captain Ahab from the novel Moby Dick is a good example of this type of person obsessed with desire for revenge. Dr. Vassel van der Kolk states in his publications that much of the emotional and physical responses to traumatic incidents is what triggers our behavior. Our reactions to suffering from trauma is instinctive and not under our direct conscious control. Therefore, conventional talking therapy is not effective in treating sufferers of trauma. Trauma must be treated at the cellular level and require engaging both the emotional and logical side of our brain to be processed. This is why my method of bilateral stimulation of both sides of our nervous system is effective, because trauma resolution needs to involve both left and right side of the brain and inner brain for healing to occur. With so many people in the world suffering from old and new traumatic experiences, it's no wonder that road rage, mass shootings, and so-called trigger-happy incidents are on the rise throughout the United States and globally. I believe massive number of wholeness coaches are needed really fast to meet the needs of our community and the world. And I believe the need for available healers will only continue to increase. This is why I'm passionate about teaching this technique to people like you. Together, we can make a difference in the world by helping people overcome their trauma and transform limiting beliefs into confidence and success. Now, let me explain why limiting beliefs occur in our brain. This is the slide of a child's brain in a supportive environment. This is what healthy development looks like in a child's brain. You can see how a supportive environment can possibly impact a child's ability to process their life experiences. Some lucky children are well cared for in their childhood, although life inevitably brings scary, anger-provoking, and shame or guilt-inducing occasions. Things like a neighboring dog barking and chasing a child, being bullied, or making a mistake at school can traumatize a child. Good caregivers can soothe a child's emotions by teaching them how to cope with difficult situations, and can soothe them by saying, there, I will talk to the bully's parents or the teacher. It's going to be okay. In a supportive environment, a child can learn to believe that they are okay, even when faced with a painful or a scary experience. They can say, I'm okay, I'm valuable, I'm confident, and I can take care of myself if I need it. These children also learn to soothe themselves in healthy ways and bring calm and peace into their mind and body. This gives them the choice to grow up to be a self-reliant and resilient person. On the other hand, some children are not so lucky. This is a slide of the child's mind in an unsafe environment. Some of our caregivers fail to take good care of their children. Maybe they have not learned to care for children, are too depressed or not available. Some of them may have been abused or traumatized themselves, or may have learned to be harsh critics toward themselves and others. Even witnessing parents fight or get divorced can create limiting beliefs and negatively affect a child. I treated a 14-year-old girl with social anxiety. In her case, she heard her parents arguing and fighting upstairs even though she was downstairs and quite a distance from their fighting. She developed social anxiety in her teenage years. She had a hard time making close friends and speaking up in the classroom, even to the point where she could not raise her hand to get a permission to go to the bathroom. When children are not supported, valued, or neglected, they develop beliefs such as I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not lovable, or there must be something wrong with me. They often do not thrive. They do not learn how to soothe themselves in healthy ways. Some of them rely on substances. Their lives can become difficult both physically and emotionally, and in some cases, use of alcohol or drugs will become their support system. These are scanned pictures of the brain, one not traumatized and the other traumatized, clearly indicating that trauma experiences can change our brain structures. At birth, only the primitive structures, such as the brain stem, are fully functional. Early childhood experiences help to develop and wire the circuits and increase or decrease brain capacity as we grow up. On the left is an image of healthy, normal child's brain. That red color indicates areas of high function and activity. The blue and black indicates low brain activity. On the right is an image of a Romanian orphan who was institutionalized shortly after birth. You can see how the temporal lobes, which regulate emotions, are dark and nearly dormant. Children like this who are deprived of love and support at a young age often suffer emotional and cognitive problems. Naturally, children are not equipped to handle traumatic situations. When a child experiences trauma, they are indeed incapable and powerless in handling and processing the situation. An adult who was traumatized as a child can continue to hold on to the same limiting beliefs that formed when the incident occurred, that they are inadequate, incapable, powerless, unworthy, or not lovable. These beliefs constantly hold us back and negatively influence all facets of our lives. But these people do not realize that they are carrying negative beliefs because these beliefs have become a part of their self-identity. A person who believes they are not lovable can choose partners who are really not in love with them over and over again, and they don't understand why. There are ways to correct these situations and remove our subconscious limiting beliefs that are running the show throughout our life. Here is a slide of NBP trauma healing technique. Is one of the most effective and quickest methods to transform our limiting beliefs and resolve emotional and physical difficulties. This technique is particularly effective in working with people who have experienced emotionally charged painful incidents. I have personally applied these methods over 500 times the past 8 years with a success rate of 99.9%. Traumatic experiences do not only create limiting beliefs, they are unique because the symptoms can appear 10, 20, 30, or even 40 years after the trauma happened. My friend Satinder used to be the CNN bureau chief and reported newsworthy events throughout Asia and Middle Eastern countries. He was extremely capable and intelligent man. 10 years later, he could not sleep because of nightmares from the horrible things he witnessed during the news gathering. This was affecting his ability to function, even though he had changed jobs to a more peaceful profession. This is what Satinder had to say after working with me as a friend. In Satinder's case, and the case of the 14-year-old girl I mentioned earlier, the effects began to show up 10 years after the experience. In Carol's case, it was much later. In high school, she was laughed at by other students. 30 years later, the effects showed up as the fear of heights or being confined in small spaces. She had difficulty riding the elevator because of strong nervousness. Either way, no matter how the trauma affects us, we cannot exercise our full capacities until we heal our trauma. It's about time for you to put a stop to that and start living your life to the fullest and the most satisfying ways. What a difference it makes to work through our trauma experiences and remove our limiting beliefs. I have many of my own personal experience of overcoming trauma and stepping forward into the bigger world and succeeding. I want the same thing for you and your clients, friends, and loved ones. While I have been working as a clinical psychologist, I have been also acquiring skills and knowledge from transformational leaders like Lisa Nichols, Brian Tracy, Brendon Bouchard, and Ted McGrath, and many more, because I want to be a good transformational leader and guide people for successful career and life. If you feel you may not be living your life to the fullest capacity, I highly recommend that you look into removing your limiting beliefs about yourself. Beliefs like, I'm not adequate, I'm not powerful, or I'm not lovable usually come from trauma experiences from your early life, especially from your childhood. This is why I have created the Neuro Bi-lateral Processing trauma healing method to free people from the bounding of trauma effects. NBP combines elements of healing modalities such as EMDR, yogic breathwork, hypnotic induction, visualization, and tapping. It can be applied in person or virtually online. I developed this powerful trauma healing technique based on my own experience of overcoming the effects of traumatic incidents that held me back for so many years. I want you to also get the benefits of healing your unfortunate trauma that have held you back for so much, such a long time. Let me show you the way to freedom and joyous living by teaching you my amazing technique that has been so successful for my clients. This certification course holds the key to have you empowered and impact so many people's lives. I'm offering this program to life coaches and holistic practitioners because you can make a big difference in people's lives. At the same time, you can learn to heal yourself from the stuck state that is holding you back. Yes, you can engage in your own trauma healing during practice sessions with your partners in the class. You will get to heal trauma among your family members and friends who are normally not interested in seeking psychotherapy, although you know they definitely need to get a lot of help. You know someone like that, don't you? Through their word of mouth, you will expand your client base and increase your income. In this training, we are creating a hybrid professional designation called Wholeness Coach. We are working with people in all areas of their being, body, mind, and spirit. This work especially involves the spirit that has been wounded by trauma, that your emotions. Wholeness Coach applies the technique to heal the traumatized parts of a person that show up as limiting beliefs and are holding them back from exercising their full potential, capacity, and abilities. Here are the reasons why I want to train other coaches and other health practitioners to become wholeness coaches. First is the amazing rate of success when the NBP technique is applied. The average success rate of cognitive behavioral therapy or talking psychotherapy is only estimated to be about 30%. Second, a lot of people are looking for trauma healers now that the knowledge of trauma effects is becoming widely known, thanks to Dr. Bessel van der Kolk's best-selling book, The Body Keeps the Score. It had been a long time New York Times bestseller list. The Body Keeps the Score in Dr. Peter Levin's book, Trauma and Memory. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the number of people in need of trauma healing has tremendously increased. I have witnessed and heard from my clients and colleagues that they had to contact over 50 different professionals before obtaining one to work with. Even then, they had to wait for 6 to 8 weeks before engaging with a therapist. After witnessing such surge of people who are desperately seeking help, I felt that we need to increase number of healers to help treat the large number of traumatized people very quickly. It takes approximately 6 years to obtain a state license by a psychotherapist with a master's degree and 10 years with a PhD. We cannot wait for another 6 years or 10 years to increase the number of available therapists. Besides, most psychology students who are training to be psychotherapists are learning to do talking therapy, such as cognitive behavioral or psychodynamic methods. In fact, most psychotherapists currently available and working are trained in these methods. As we have learned today, these are not effective ways to treat traumatized people. This opportunity is perfect for people like you. You already have the basic knowledge of healing practices and the desire to serve and help people. You can obtain the certificate to become a wholeness coach within 8 weeks while you are healing your own trauma and in family members and friends. So send me a text and let's set up a meeting to talk directly for 20 minutes so you can learn more about this technique, the pilot program discount, and the certification program. The course will start on Wednesday, January 19 at 5:30 p.m. It will occur once a week for 8 weeks. You will receive a course materials, a manual, and certificate to hang on the wall of your office. I'm accepting only a small number of people to have this opportunity to join our pilot program. There are only a few more seats available. Again, here is my contact information so we can meet and the link to register for the training. If you have any questions, now is a good time, great time to ask me while I'm live on this webinar. Anyone among you to ask questions?
Hey, Michiyo, you said
Yes.
anybody can do this, right? Even if I'm not a therapist or a life coach or anything, right?
Yes, yes. Well, you already have very helping attitudes. So yeah, I'm also training you to be good coach. So it will be great to have you among us. Okay. Anyone? If there are no more questions, we can conclude this webinar. I will share my contact information once more in case you need it. Thank you so much for attending. You have been a wonderful audience. I really enjoyed having you as my audience, and hopefully very soon I will speak with you in 20-minute private conversation to talk about this pilot program. So for now, I will say thank you and bye to you.